Okay, we'll get started here. Some more folks are joining us, and so don't mind me as we as we go through this. We'll be admitting people into the room and get going here. First off, I just want to say thank you to today's sponsors. Today we're sponsored by Polymorphic and Police Reports AI, two really great companies that you're going to learn a lot more in terms of what they're building for local government. Also, a shout out to our bronze sponsor, Clerk Minutes. I know we enjoyed hearing from them last week, and hopefully more exciting things on the near horizon from Clerk Minutes. So as we get started again, just really want to focus on in these goals. And there's the reason why I'm doing this is to remind us of why we do what we do, why we're here together. It's to foster that collaboration, it's to share knowledge and to spur innovation. There's a way in which we can do that. I have a little teaser for you at the end, a cool way that we can do that with each other here. And really want to take a moment of personal privilege here to thank you all for supporting me on this journey. It means a lot. This past week, I was able to become a top AI voice in LinkedIn. That's thanks to you all. It reached the 500 subscriber mark on my YouTube channel. Again, thanks to you all for your support and your support for me in this journey. So a cool way I think we can do that for each other as well too. So again, stay tuned to the end of this seminar, this webinar, this meeting, whatever you want to call it, and we'll do that because I want to spread that and pay that forward back to us all here too. So with that being said, I want to invite Eric Clague to the AN Local Government Network. Eric is an Army veteran and former police officer from Florida. He's the founder and president of policereports.ai, which is a solution designed to transform police department documentation workflow. So with that being said, I want to invite Eric. Eric, if you want to unmute, and I believe you might have some slides for us as well too. So I'm going to stop sharing this in case you want to share your slides. So take it away, Eric.
Hey, how's it going? Can you hear me all right, Micah?
Yep, you're good.
All right. Thank you for that introduction. Couldn't have done it any better. Um, yeah, policereports.ai. I'm the founder. Essentially, right, I'm a former law enforcement officer as well. So essentially, I saw there to be a need for the document completion process to be streamlined, introduce policereports.ai. So what I'm going to do is I can run you through how the system works, and then we're going to go through on average how much we save a law enforcement agency. So we're just going to do a pretty quick demo here. Righty. So the users log in and we can build templates using machine learning for really any report type, any format that we want. We train on the agency's current documents to make sure everything's accurate. So we'll just use a non-arrest report, a really simple vehicle burglary. I'm not going to do a long report, not going to waste too much time. So the user comes in, it's really simple, right? We want to make it as easy as possible to where it'd be very intuitive. Because you got to think, right, in the car, you have all kinds of radios, things going off, all kinds of stuff like that. The case number's in. This is all trackable. So for court and whatnot, we can pull this and provide it to the agency, to the state attorney's office or whatever. And then very simply, you just come in and talk to it. It doesn't need to be how you want the report written. You just come in and tell the software what happened. On the above date, I responded to the above location reference of vehicle burglary. Late reported. Upon arrival, I made contact with the victim. The victim stated that she parked her vehicle, a black Nissan Altima bearing Florida tag ABC 123, in the driveway last night after she got home from work. And she stated that she left the vehicle unlocked. The victim then explained when she woke up the next morning, she noticed that the car had been ruffled through and approximately $2 in loose change were stolen. A crime scene tech was called to the location to process the vehicle. And now see if there's an issue and you stop. That's all fine. It'll record it and then you can take it out in the end. A canvas was conducted with negative results. And no further action was taken. The victim desires prosecution. So as you can see, this is going to be transcribed here. And the user can go in, and if you see, and it's completely editable. We have a name replacement tool as well, because not everybody's name is spelled the same way. Right, so the victim, we'll call her Jane Doe. We agree to terms of service, and we submit, and a police report will be generated. And now this is generated within the agency's format. So every agency has a different format. They have, different ways to write things. And not only that, but we can assist with evaluation, search warrants, really any type of document completion within the first responder space. So how does that break down, right? At a 300-person agency, on average, you're going to do about 90,000 reports. And that's not just writing reports from calls for service. That's evaluations, supplemental reports, something like that, right? So it's about 90,300 officers at $34 an hour. And on average, it'll take about 30 minutes to complete a report, depending on the length and how specific it needs to be. That equals 45,000 hours spent writing reports, right? That's 45,000 hours officers are not on the street. They're not interacting with the community, doing, right, essentially what taxpayers pay the police to do. And in man hours, it comes out to 1.5 million, essentially, right? Now, with police reports.ai, same all up here. Takes about 5 minutes, as you just saw, right? To write a report. And we've now cut down to 7,500 hours. And even with the cost of our software, you're still less than $500,000 total in report writing. On average, we're going to save agencies $37,000, or sorry, 37,500 hours and over $1 million on report writing activities. So that's a huge cost benefit. And essentially, right, we all know there's a significant hiring crisis at the moment. And this is what I think really is going to combat that, make quality of life better for officers, and additionally make really everybody happier and save the city money. So I saw there was a question here. Yes, can this handle multiple languages? So fun story, half of my team is Dutch, and a couple of weeks ago we wrote some police reports in Dutch, and it did it just fine. Next question, is the data being used for training? Okay, yes, it is being used for training, but only the data that you're giving, that the agency gives to us, and then the feedback that the users provide. CGIS, yes, I was waiting for somebody to ask this, Ken. We are CGIS compliant. We exceed the CGIS encryption standards, and we're also not directly receiving CGIS from like a terminal. So, but yes, we are compliant. So we double the encryption rate for CGIS. Where is the language model housed? So currently, we are using a version of GPT, but we're moving to AWS Bedrock. So it's going to be housed in AWS, just like most government softwares.
Eric, I got a question for you too, kind of go on that
Sure.
on the language model side of things and CGIS. So when you're building this for, say, an agency, are you isolating their training with only them, right? So like, for instance, if you're with the Port Lucie, Florida, right, and doing something for them, are you doing it on their own cloud server or on their own isolated servers, or is there a generalized server that you're training or housing the large language model on?
Yes, so we actually have server engineers, and we can, if the agency wants, we can build a server, for a cloud server, obviously, for them. Ours are just as secure, and the data that we're using as well from the LLM The prompts and everything we obviously have a base brain, I guess you can say, that we pull from, but all the data that we're pulling from is based on their own prompts and the training from their documents if they elect to train on their documents. We can do it without training on their documents as well. And in the trial period, that is what we do, and we're still very accurate.
Well, and then can you give us a sense, you said you're in the trial period right now, it sounds like, what agencies are you working with right now? Give us kind of a sense, especially for those, I'm seeing some comments here about some interest here. So what are some ways for people to, get a hold of those who are using the trial version and get a hold of you?
Right, you can reach out at my email, eric@policereports.ai. Currently, we are in the process with two agencies. I don't want to divulge their names just yet. If you contact me directly, I'd be more than happy to. It's just we're waiting on a couple memorandums to be signed for like some proprietary stuff. But if you contact me directly, I can put you in contact with them, and a conversation can be had with how they're using the software and how everything is moving forward. I see a question here as well. Does it allow for automated workflows and supervisor comments? EJ, if the officer submits a report to sergeant or LT for approval. So that's going to be done through the records management system. We are not a records management system in ourselves. We are just there to complement it. However, we do currently have a report checker in beta. And that report checker is going to evaluate the reports and check them for the officer based on agency policy and procedures. But we haven't rolled that out yet.
This is incredible, Eric. Thanks for showing this with us here. Anything else to add? But this is really cool. Anything else you want to add to this discussion?
Sure. I have a couple things to add. As far as because we've been getting these questions a lot. I know we touched on CGIS. CGIS is completely covered. And then as far as like security on our end, we everything that's maintained is in our own admin panel, and we will give your admin people who have the appropriate clearance, obviously, access to that to streamline public record requests, anything along those lines. Now, I don't really think that that'll be a huge issue because obviously you have the RMS system, but because we have the patent on the workflows and the patent on the software, we're more than happy to allow people into that admin panel to a certain extent.
And then I see a question here from Melanie. Speaking of records management, is there certain records management systems that you work well with? Any specific ones you're only able to use at all?
So hypothetically, if there's an endpoint given or an API, we can integrate with all of them. But currently, we don't really suggest integration because we're here to save the agency's money. A lot of these RMS systems are going to try to charge you more for that API and whatnot, and you can simply copy and paste from our system. So it'll be done in seconds as opposed to going through the lengthy process of trying to integrate.
And then a couple more questions here. Some great questions. I love this interaction here. One is, can police reports be shared with other state or other departments?
Can police, can they elaborate on that question?
So I'm
Yes.
guessing, yeah, can you share the reports with other law enforcement agencies?
Well, I mean, we can put that feature in. It's going to go into your RMS. So if they have access to the RMS, they're more than welcome to. But yes, hypothetically, we can put that feature in. That's actually a good question. I've never been asked that before. But yes, we can figure something out.
Yeah, and then Katrina is asking, so for public records requests, will the original script be saved in addition to the final text?
Yes. So what we save the original script, the backend prompt that we use, and the return. And the reason for that is obviously legally speaking, one, and then two, if public records request if they want it.
Yeah, that's really cool. Well, thank you, Eric. Again, thank you for joining us today. Really cool what you're building there. And here I want to show you guys a way in which you can connect with Eric, find more about police reports, AI. So let me share the screen with you real quick here. That way you can see how to best get a hold of Eric. So his QR code is his LinkedIn. Connect with him on LinkedIn here. Visit policereports.ai is the website. Go check it out. Really, really cool and exciting things that he's putting together. So a virtual round of applause for Eric and his work there. Really exciting stuff. So thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, and additionally, you can contact me via email. It's eric@policereports.ai.
Even better, Eric@policereports.ai. Send me an email, get in touch with him. Some really cool things that he's building to help police departments across the US. So really cool there.
Perfect. Thank you so
Next,
much.
yeah, my pleasure. Next up, we have Parth Shah. Parth Shah is an AI visionary and co-founder and CEO of Polymorphic. And Polymorphic is doing some great things in the government AI automation and CRM space. So Parth, welcome. Excited to hear and learn more about Polymorphic.
Thanks, Mike. I appreciate the visionaries too kind. And I will go ahead and share my screen as well. Eric, also, thank you for a great demo of Police Reports AI. I'm a huge fan of that. So yeah, excited to speak about AI today. And before jumping in, I'd love to give kind of a quick background on me. So my path to local government's a little bit roundabout. I actually started my career as a software engineer by training. So I focused on artificial intelligence and machine learning while at MIT. And I was the president of the machine intelligence community there. And also spent some time at NVIDIA doing deep learning, which is obviously a company that has done a lot of great work around AI chip making and things like that. So really spent a lot of time in that world. But my family background was in local government. My grandfather worked as a utility director his whole life. And so growing up, just really associated with the critical and important stuff that happens in local government. He was in charge of making sure the water kept running, the sewage was moving, literally keeping the lights on. And so for me, what really stood out was an opportunity to bring that into local government. And so I had a chance to work at a small company that was working in the smart city space, specifically around data analytics. And so the whole idea was, could we use data and analytics to plan safer cities? Which was a great experience. But firsthand, what I saw immediately was really the bigger challenge in local government we face is we're really customer service organizations, right? We're handling phone calls and emails, in-person visits, and people have questions, applications they're trying to submit. Sometimes they complain. And we're trying to manage that all on systems that are often pen and paper. Email is really how we collaborate. Post-it notes are very common, or it's, legacy systems. And so today I'm kind of excited to showcase on the AI side a really neat application. But before we jump in, I'm going to start with, who is this for? And so I'm going to start with kind of our early adopters. I'm sure we have a ton on this call, and y'all are itching to solve problems with AI, right? You see the potential, you're excited about it. So this is going to be something where I'm going to show the technology, and I'm sure you all are going to get very excited about, where it starts and also where it can go with it. The second group that this is for is early majority. So you probably see the value of AI, but have some concerns. And one thing we hear a lot is, folks are hearing a ton about ChatGPT and all these other tools, but it's unclear, where do I start, right? Where do I start with AI in my local government? And so today we're going to show you hopefully one of the easiest starting points. That's very low risk. It's going to be controlled content, so it's a great place to start. And then for everyone else, you might be worried of AI. It may be unclear why this even matters, how it could even help. And so today I'm hoping for that audience to really show that it may not be something where you're saying, hey, I want to bring Polymorphic into my municipality tomorrow, but hopefully it opens some eyes to, hey, there's low risk applications out there, and they can be very high value too. And so without further ado, I'm going to introduce and talk through our AI-powered search and chat experience that we offer for local governments. And so I want to share today from Rowan County's website, and we've had the pleasure of working with Randy Kress there and the team. So shout out to the Rowan County team. So they kind of the story here is they had invested, done an amazing job, really, frankly, on building out a great website. The problem is, as you all must know, when people, your residents and businesses come to your website, they're not really looking to navigate through the department tabs and figure out which link is applicable to this question they have. They have a question they're trying to get answered. And so more often than not, what happens is they try to search, and most of these keyword searches just dump a giant list of URLs. Often they're not relevant. And so they pick up the phone and they call, which is great, but it's an expensive interaction for your staff. And oftentimes, they were capable and more than happy to find the answer on the website. And so what we built here today, it's a really simple interface. You can ask it a question. Think of it kind of like a ChatGPT, but big difference is it's only on controlled content. So from the website, their code, and other sources they whitelisted. So I can ask here, how do I adopt an animal from the shelter? And it lays out a really clear, step by step, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but it's pulling from content from Rowan County's website, so from their sources. So it's controlled content. So you can follow this. You have an auditable trail for every response. It can even handle more complex questions like, can I use the event center? And the reason I like this example is this actually is an answer that's provided from 2 sources. So it's based on some information on their West End Plaza page and their facilities page. And it synthesizes it into one clear and comprehensive answer for constituents. So as you can see, pulled all their website, puts it really straightforward into answers for constituents. And the big benefit, and what I may have hinted at, is actually a free feature we offer. And I'll get to that piece. But almost overnight, you're going to see an improvement and reduction in certain phone calls. So in that sense, it's a really immediate and positive ROI, which is fantastic. Now, I love those examples, and I'm going to go a little bit deeper into something a little bit more complicated. And I love this example. This is from Polk County in North Carolina. And every city and county we talk to, so we've launched this with a variety. We work with 36 cities and counties across the country. They all talk about the fact that they have the most complex rules around fences, which I think is amusing that everyone thinks that. And so I'm going to ask a very specific question. And the reason I like this example is it's going to lay it out in a really simple answer here, right? It tells you immediately, like, here are the rules, 6 inches within 200 feet of the residence. But the reason this is an impressive answer is I'm going to pull the source it's actually grabbing it from. And this is a PDF of their, from their code. And there is no way a resident or business would be able to figure out, what the answer to that question was. In fact, sometimes I joke with a lot of staff, which is it's hard for us to know, and it's hard for staff to keep track of all the complexities and nuances in the code and ordinance. So in many ways, it opened our eyes up to another use case, which is actually for your staff and for internal uses as well. So one of the big questions that immediately comes up. Great. It looks straightforward, easy. It's exciting. Can add value. How is it hard to set up? And so turns out, and we're very excited now, it's actually very easy for us to set up for you. And so we've actually already set it up for all the attendees here. It takes 15 minutes to add to the website. It's an easy iframe you can just embed on your site. And what's neat is for this initial version, this is actually free for anyone who signs up before June 1st. And it's not a free pilot, it's actually free forever. And so that means probably what you're all thinking about is, what's the catch? And so I'm going to start with, it really is free forever. It's not a free pilot. But of course, we're a company. So our other products we offer are not free. And so what this is for us is it's a way for us to show that AI can be low risk. It's an easy way to get introduced. And the benefit for us is we're able to introduce you into the polymorphic ecosystem. So there's no expectation on our side, but our bet is like you will want to see more of the AI applications and some of the other things we offer as a result. And so some of those things are we offer Premium AI, which has a smarter model it runs on. Our out of the box runs on the GPT 3.5 API, so the data is not used for training or anything like that. You'll also find that not all your content is on your website or code and pages like that. So you can get more PDF and complex source support with that Premium AI. It also has multi-language. Obviously, your residents speak a variety of different languages, so now it can actually talk in the language they speak. Analytics is fantastic. You can start to actually understand what are the questions they're asking. What are the categories we're hearing from, so you can be proactive with how you update your digital experience. And the last one, which I love, is you have policies. You probably have internal documents. You can actually use it as internal and staff only AI search and chatbot, which is fantastic. And then all this integrates and runs into our CRM and our process digitizing and improvement. And so I'm going to show you a quick example. And I see there's a few questions in the chat. I'll get to those. I'll leave some time at the end for that. All this ties together into what we are kind of thinking is the future of how customer service is handled. I'm really excited to show an example here from Prospect Park. We've had the opportunity to work with Intishan, who is one of the youngest city managers in New Jersey, also one of the most innovative we've ever met. And so the way before they started using polymorphic, and they use it more for the AI search, they use it for kind of the full suite. But before polymorphic, one of the challenges they ran into, and I'll use public records requests as an example, because I saw there were a few questions around that too. In New Jersey, they're called OPRA requests, so OPRA. So first off, you can imagine that's already a problem from a keyword search standpoint. If I type in public records, it doesn't necessarily match on OPRA. And so what happened is people would call front desk and they'd have questions. They would ask, take about 10 to 15 minutes for staff to say, hey, here's on which page, look for OPRA. And then you'd have to download a PDF. So you download the PDF, you fill it out, you mail it in or drop it off in person. And if there's a payment, you're also mailing in a check or sending that in. And even after all that, the internal process was managed on paper by staff. And so coordinating is very difficult. Public records requests obviously have a due date. And this is just an example. This can be applied for a variety of processes, from supply order, contract review, to any kind of public facing process. But I'm going to show you how it looks now. So now you can click, and it takes you right into Ask AI. And I'm going to ask, how do I make a public records request? And it's smart enough to know and see that that's actually an OPRA request. And so you can see right there, it has all the directions, lays it out really, really clearly. And what's great is it knows that there's an online application actually linked to this. And so you can click right through. I'm not going to start an application because there's a real live example, but if I click begin, it would take me and I could fill out digital web forms immediately. I could actually pay online by credit card or ACH or e-check. And then internally, it actually triggers a digital case file that staff can manage. And it's really easy for them to collaborate. They're actually even able to use AI to streamline communications back to the constituent, handle that request. And the whole time, I have what we joke and call our Domino's pizza tracker, so I know exactly where in the process I am. And to us, what this really illustrates is the future of customer service in government. I think that's really the exciting opportunity with AI. Is it's an opportunity for us we see kind of the writing on the wall. It's harder to hire than ever. We're looking for ways to get efficiency, and it seems like there's more and more requests each day. And so what we're really focused on is level one is using AI to help manage the volume of customer requests. So that AI search and chat is part of it. We also have a voice AI product, which works over the phone, which is exciting to a lot of the early adopters. And then that ties into that process automation and digitization I showed, which is going to streamline the fulfillment of those requests. And then all of this is held together in your database, in your CRM, which is tracking, providing analytics. I always say if you can't measure, you can't manage. But what's really neat about it is it's also using AI to help automate and streamline that record keeping, because last thing you want is to be manually tracking things and manually entering things. But all this to say, I know this is kind of a tall order on the future of customer service, and so we wanted to show a way that's easy to get started. It's not intimidating. This AI search and chat we offer, we're actually going to send out an email afterwards. And thanks, Micah, for setting this up. We've actually set it up for all of y'all, and our client success team will work with you to get it set up. But it takes 15 minutes to add to the website. It's really easy. So please reach out if you have like any questions, any ideas, thoughts, and we're really looking forward to sharing this with more and more cities and counties as it goes. Let me look through the questions now. Perfect. Yeah, so we use the GPT models in the backend. I'll differentiate between ChatGPT specifically because that's kind of the application. And the big difference is on the APIs we use. The data can't be used for training. So the interesting thing about the hallucination rate, it's very low, and the big reason is we actually indexed all your content and sources and only provided those sources to provide answers. So it's a very conservative model in that sense, and the approach makes sure the hallucination rate is lower than 1 to 2%, which is amazing. Is there a difference between premium and free and how it's trained to produce more accurate results? The big difference really is it's very low. It's funny, Melanie, when I see your question was lower than humans. The big part that makes it impressive there is just we had never really thought about it. We work with a surrogate court in New Jersey, and she said, when we get questions around wills and handling estates, it requires a huge legal knowledge to even manage. And a lot of staff, like they join, they don't really know that detail. And she said, what's neat is like the AI has this infinitely, like not infinite, but it's like it's a larger content and knowledge base it can operate on. So it's able to answer a lot of questions and knows the difference between specifically a probate and administering an estate, which apparently the staff used to often mix up quite often. So just an amusing anecdote to share that, but it was quite impressive there. And then Melanie, in terms of the difference in training, there's no difference in training. It's more that the model on the GPT APIs we use are stronger on premium. And the premium is also a la carte. So it's not like you have to do each of those. Some people just want the PDF support. Some people just want the multi-language, things like that.
Parth, this is awesome. Thanks for sharing this with us here. This really incredibly great tool here. I have one quick question for you then too. With the GPTs that are out there with OpenAI and ChatGPT's GPTs, can you talk to how what you're building for even the website integration, how is that different from a typical GPT, right? Or things like that, or what's the value of having something like your enterprise feature here in terms of training on a city's data? Why is that different from a typical GPT? Can you educate us on that?
Yeah, so the big difference is it's actually basically providing a full application around it, right? So managing the knowledge base gets a lot easier. It's actually scraping your site, keeping it up to date on that, which is going to keep it more performant too. Because with search, speed of results matters. And when you're using a custom GPT, you're not going to want to upload one every web page regularly into your site. And two, if you don't want it to just have kind of unrestrained internet access, right? Because it will be slow on the results, and it could also find pages that are not on the website. So those are kind of the two big differences at a very simple, tangible level. Over time, there's some of the big unique benefits is you want to be able to have a log of what searches are we seeing from constituents, analytics on what are big categories of requests we're seeing, feedback on which answers is it performing well on, which ones is it not, which sources are being used a lot. And so those are kind of the advanced applications that custom GPT is great in terms of using it kind of internally as a tool a little bit for doing chats, but that user facing, those features you want for tracking and providing great results for your constituents, that's where it starts to fall short, of course.
Great. And I see another question here from Fani. What is the performance of the website when your model runs?
Yeah, so it's not going to affect the website performance at all, actually. What's neat is it's an iframe you embed, so it's actually running on US servers and AWS on our site, and you're just embedding that iframe in your website. So it's not going to slow down the website or do anything like that, which is pretty exciting.
That's really cool. Thanks for showing us the part. I really appreciate that. Any final comments at all from you?
No final comments. I mean, reach out, and we're really excited to about this and bringing AI to more cities and counties across the country.
Great. I'm gonna show you guys how to get a hold of Parth here and learn more about his work. If I can have the screen go away, there we go. So the way to get hold of Parth here, sorry for going through here, is go visit the website polymorphic.com. There's the QR code to his LinkedIn page. Connect with him, pick his brain. He's got a great team over there in Polymorphic. Had some pleasures of talking with them over there. So a really, really cool thing that they're putting together for local governments across the US here. So excited to have him on board and excited to learn more about Polymorphic. So thank you.
Thanks, Micah.
So next up, I want to invite John Weidl from the city of Whitewater, Wisconsin. He is doing some really interesting things in terms of how he's bringing AI into his city. And so I want to invite him to talk about his approach to that, how he's doing that, and to learn from his experience, over 15 years of experience in local government. I think I counted about 13 years in municipal administration. So really excited to have John join us. So John, I'm going to switch out these slide decks. I know you have
Sure.
a slide deck your team put over here. Give me 1 second and I'll do that here.
Something very simple. You're giving me mortality issues talking about how long I've been in local government. But for the group, what I think I always try and do, and what brought Micah and I together, is using AI, and ChatGPT is specifically where I spend a lot of my time with AI to make my life easier and to make the lives easier of my direct reports. So I think I have like 3 areas I want to hit on as who am I? 14 years management. I've got a lot of experience in economic development. I come from the military. I'm a combat veteran, so hence I kind of just get to it and I'm direct about it. And I got my 2 degrees, master's, and my undergraduate from NIU. And I've been doing local government since 2008. Yeah. So let's dive right in. And if there are questions, throw them up there. Feel free to stop me. But mostly this is like on the ground, how to make this practical for you. Micah, do I have control or do you have control here?
John, I think you might have control. You want to try it? If not, let me try, see if I can you advance the slide?
Um,
There we go. Enhance
There
the
we go,
policy.
technology. Okay. So the
Yes.
first big area I want to touch on is policy, because so much of our time is spent working with that. And I'll just use a couple real world examples to go through what we did and how this is applicable to you. So one of the first big things we did as I was getting used to ChatGPT is we updated our mobile home park ordinance, but this can literally be applied to anything you've got going on. And what we found we wanted to do was base our model on a municipality nearby. Big surprise for someone in local government. So we started by inputting Whitewater's, and then really one thing I'm going to touch on throughout every topic I talk about is guiding whatever tool you're using. I'll call it ChatGPT just as kind of the Kleenex of AI right now. And it's something Micah talks about too, but you can really coach your system in every conversation you're having and really tailor it for what you're going after. So it's everything as simple as take this document, remove Elkhorn, insert Whitewater. That's pretty basic. But then you can amalgamate that with sections you have on your own. You can ask it to keep certain sections or setbacks. You can coach it to make the document shorter. So what we did is we started with Elkhorns, changed everything to Whitewater, input Whitewaters, asked it what areas we were missing. Was there something in one that wasn't in the other, one in back and forth, and then had it spit out all of those results. And then also I got feedback from all of my department heads, which I then input into ChatGPT, and you can talk about the pros and cons. You can have it write the language. So that's one example. Another example is the dreaded, I have it written about in 2 places because it causes so much panic among my direct reports, are these cover memos that basically go on everything that goes into an agenda packet. I just tell my staff, and one real example is we had a council member who wanted to understand how an ordinance gets approved and wanted a staff report on that. Okay, perfectly acceptable. Instead of going through the generative process of having to think about that, we simply input the code that outlines how an ordinance is produced, asked ChatGPT to write a brief memo to an elected official about how an ordinance gets approved. And there you go. And again, it comes down to guidance. So at this point in time, I usually have already put in our memo format, things of that nature, to try and structure where we're going. And you can ask it, to often I have it write in a way that's easy for everyone to understand. And that's something you can simply just say into ChatGPT. You can ask it to be more technical. You could ask it, to focus on the legislative process as opposed to something else. So that was a big one. How to approve an ordinance, the mobile home parks thing. I think that's pretty good for enhancing policy, unless anyone has some questions. What I really want to say is you can put in, find your comps, use your comps, and then use this to do a first cut of whatever you're trying to do. And that's really saved us a ton of time. The way that we first got into using ChatGPT is we have a huge language issue in the community. I think that leads us to the next slide there, Micah. Oh yeah, see, there were more examples. We also did policies for our employee handbook, memos to Common Council, revisions of current policies. Let's go to the next slide. Language translation services, and then let's go to the next slide because that has my examples. So we've used them to translate primarily into Spanish press releases, violation forms of all kinds. Toter is the big one in our community because we're a college community. So we have a lot of issues with people taking care of their garbage cans. And we do get a fair amount of interaction on social media. What I'd like to hit with the language component is we have found over time that our language translation services are over 98% effective, at least from common English, however we put it in, to asking that it be put into common Spanish. And we have staff on site that do translation for us and off-site, and we have run this past both of them. There's occasionally a hiccup or two, but nothing that takes away from the context or the quality of it. We've also used it to generate from video captions or for video captions in both languages, and that's allowed us to take everything from our videos on how to obtain a library card and how to sign up for utilities and make sure that those are translated across our languages that we have in our community. Okay, let's go to the next one. So content generation for communication, and then you can just go straight to the next slide. All of our press releases, again, I hit on the social media captions. We do Saturday shout outs for our employees, which also tend to talk about our services. All of that, we not only will use artificial intelligence to draft, but then once that's been polished, we will then translate the language. And what I have here in my notes is, again, it comes down to the guidance. There's some things that immediately you'll notice as you're using artificial intelligence to do these things. Some paragraphs will be redundant. There tends to be some formatting things that'll look goofy when you copy and paste things over. So I'd encourage you to either have a standard kind of format you input to use and guide ChatGPT, or make sure you're polishing those things. I've had to remind my staff that some of our stuff, especially at the beginning, came out a little too generic. So I have here, make sure you're telling it what you want it to do. I've often said things as simple as, I'm a local government administrator in Wisconsin, and I'm trying to write a memo to this fill in the blank. I've written it to legislators, for Common Council, for the Rotary Club. I've had it write speeches for me. Most recently, there was a letter required for a CPM course that I've signed myself up for. And sorry if anyone who's running that course is on here, but it asks you in 250 words to write a brief letter on your interest. And I uploaded my resume, uploaded the question, gave it the prompt and churned that out, and then did a little polishing to that. And that was something that would have taken, as was alluded to, I wrote down that with the ticket software going from 30 minutes to 5 minutes, that's what I think you can do with a lot of these things. So we've checked job applications up against our job description, assessing for strengths and weaknesses or questions we might want to ask in an interview. I've used it to write my own correspondence. I think on if you're following me on LinkedIn, we've used it to generate at least first cut of graphics that we then send to media services for content of that nature. So let me check chat. Okay, I don't think there's anything relevant in there. So basically, in kind of encounter to the software that you've seen and the things that consultants can help you do, and that's all awesome. I'm sending that to my police chief. I think there's a lot of things that we can be using artificial intelligence, or we could be getting our staffs to use artificial intelligence for, that will shrink down a lot of that production time that doesn't require maybe, let's be real, not everything requires a 10. So some of, especially cover memos, generative letters, things you're sending out, routine communications, social media posts can all be generated and pre-scheduled using AI software. I think for me, Micah, that wraps up. Unless anyone has any questions or wants to share any examples of what they're doing, that wraps up my portion.
Thank you, John. I had a couple questions for you then.
Sure.
So when you talk about like for example, you're bringing in these different documentations and say you're comparing, Elkhorn versus Whitewater and adding that language in, how are you doing that? What's your approach to doing that? Are you using ChatGPT or are you using a different tool? Kind of walk us through how you're doing that.
So it's usually ChatGPT. I found that's as I would call myself kind of like I don't know, like a garage expert on it. I've used it enough to figure out how to make it really work for me. So the first step is just I tell it what I'm going to do. So that process was literally, I'm going to upload the ordinance for a community that we want to use at a baseline, and then I'm going to upload, and sorry, I don't use upload, I use input, because then it's looking for something else. And then I'm going to input the one from Whitewater, and the first thing I'd like you to do is assess all of the areas that there are differences. And it just spit that out from the setbacks, but we found most of it was similar. But the setbacks, materials required. One of the biggest differences between us and Elkhorn is Elkhorn requires permanent stabilization for their mobile homes, where we didn't. So just that, I just ask it questions, and I'll do a lot of cut and pasting. I'll have a working document that I'm working with as I'm asking it questions. I'll have it tab sections of the conversation, like tab this as an important answer about our differences. I want to come back to this later. So I don't know if I exactly answered your question, but I think you just got to dig in and literally prompt it and then ask it what it is you're looking for. And what we were looking was to compare the differences because we wanted to use Elkhorns as a model.
Well, yeah, that's great. And Ken had a great question about like a repository of AI use cases. Yes, Ken, and really that's kind of what the purpose of this monthly meeting is, to be, record these conversations, post them on YouTube, that we can go back and look, right? Whether it's, hey, how was that clerk minutes? How did that work? Or police reports, or polymorphic and what they're doing with the integration on top of our websites and things like that, or even their more full service solutions as well too. Matt had a question for you, John. Have you used AI in preparing any grant applications?
No, that's a great question. That's something we're probably going to get into. That was more of a confluence of time and energy. The first real grant application that seems relevant and important for us, like literally just crossed my desk this morning. And it came from actually a grant specialist in another community that Public Administrator Dive co-funded between the school district, the city, and some other organization. So that seems very cool. But she passed it along to us, and we will probably end up using AI for at least something. I think that's an excellent idea, to kind of cut myself off. We haven't yet, but I think it's an excellent idea.
Yeah. And then Joanna is asking, how did you approach rolling out AI to your staff? Were they hesitant? Can you walk us through that?
So Micah, you and I actually talked about that with Joe Turner. That was kind of the subject of our podcast. And what I did was I found a specific instance where it would be beneficial to that person for something they were currently working on. And then I walked them through it. I actually have a TV screen as my monitor, and I just pushed the corner over and was like, we're going to look at my monitor now. And I'll give you a for example. The the city council had adopted a 5-point strategic plan, build single family homes, improve relations with the business community, recruitment and retention, financial stuff, and communicating without a newspaper. This specific situation, my fire chief had come in and said, I have no idea how I am going to write goals that have anything to do with the fact that the city wants to build more single family homes. So that's a great question. Let's ask ChatGPT. So we put the strategic plan in. There was like a 15-page actual strategic plan that was the University of Wisconsin Extension did for us. Said, I'm going to input the strategic plan, want to focus on the 5 goals, and then I have questions about it. And then after that loaded, I said, my fire department is struggling for goals that correlate with the building 150 homes, and hit enter. And it did kind of what I would have expected a first cut of these goals to be. It said things like ensuring that 100% of the new homes that are built are compliant with certain standards. Something about tying, fire inspections and proactively meeting with developers in advance of them building subdivisions to talk about things in our code. So not directly related, like how can they help build, but certainly as something as a city manager, I would have looked at and said, this is a great way, something you don't directly have a hand in, but a way of supporting the team by showing how our fire services are in fact important to our goal of building more homes. That there right there, he realized, it was a shortcut to short circuiting where he wanted to be, which was, I can use this to make things that are harder for me to think about in my job easier to think about, specifically getting out of my comfort zone of thinking about everything fire related. The Spanish language translation was for our police because we happen to have, Whitewater's been in the news recently for immigration. I can assure you it's not nearly as bad as what's out there, but we have a large, approaching 30% Spanish speaking population. So that's who we're communicating with. So short answer to the question, make it relevant, make it short, and make it immediately something they can implement. My chief of staff in charge of media services started using it for social media. You've heard me talk about examples. So timely, relevant, quick.
It's awesome.
What else?
And are you doing anything in ChatGPT years? I think it's similar to dog years, right? In terms of when we last talked about you kind of developing this and laying out to your team, what have your conversations been since then with your team as you kind of train and develop them and how to appropriately and safely use these tools?
I have successfully sidestepped the how to regulate this conversation because I'm not sure yet. But a lot of it's second level, making sure you're polishing, making sure you're asking follow-up questions. If you're expecting to achieve anything better than entry-level high school with a first cut of ChatGPT, your expectations are too high. You've got to go back and refine, give it additional points of data, set the guardrails. Some of the stuff, Micah, you're doing by setting up a conversation before you really ask it what you want it is really where we're trying to go with our staff, and making sure that they're just using it. It can be fun to use once, but are you really using it for all your cover memos? Do you have a way of getting from, okay, I have 5 things in my agenda, I'm going to make sure that I have a routine for my process. So I think we've passed the threshold of our people finding it useful. It's now, how are we getting our own efficiency out of it?
Perfect. And then Jill had a question. How are you guys and when do you guys attribute content generated with or by AI?
That is a great question. I think I see where the larger question, we haven't attributed anything specifically to AI yet. And I don't know how to I honestly wouldn't know how to successfully answer the question, when is it AI and when is it yours? Do you have any guidance on that, Micah?
So I would, the question I would ask then is, how or when do we attribute content generated by humans, right? And so to have a similar framework for those conversations, right? Of, okay, if my team is helping me put together a staff report to mayor and council or to the city manager's office or something like that, I may or may not attribute every single contribution. Obviously, we'll let people know, maybe verbally, it depends on how that works exactly. So I would say the same approach you would with human generated content probably, might be a good rule of thumb with AI generated content. But if you're doing what you're saying, John, in terms of that human in the loop, and you're refining, you're constantly going through, really by the time you have your published content, it looks very, very different from what you first received in ChatGPT, because you're finding, you're going through the fine-tooth comb, and you're putting in the different phraseology and the inputs that you want with it. So sometimes it's even a completely different product at the end of the day from when you first started. So, John, thank you so much. A really helpful treasure trove of information you have there. Really, really cool. Make sure there's no other question here. Great.
Yeah, no problem. My main message
yeah.
is it's accessible. I think that's what you're trying to bring. The tools are very accessible. You can find ways to implement things immediately, begin testing the software in a way that is very low risk. And I think most people, especially if you have any type of correspondence in your life, and I average about 100 emails a day with over 50% that I have to come up with original responses to, I think you can make use of this type of software. So, and thank you for the opportunity, Micah. As always, I'm happy to talk about what my team is doing and how we're making strides in our organization. So thank you.
Well, thank you, John, here. And let me show you guys how to get a hold of John. Connect with him on LinkedIn. Again, just a wonderful wealth of information. How he's approaching that is really cool. So pick his brain, reach out to him there on LinkedIn. So thank you, John. I also want to thank you for, thank Parth and Eric for joining us today as well and sharing their thoughts. This is a space to collaborate and share information. So if you have a story to tell within how you're using AI in local government, here's a link to a quick little form, or the QR code of the form filled out. Would love to get you and hear from you and how you're approaching AI and some of the innovative and great things you're doing there in your local government. Again, just if you're a company looking to sponsor this network and want to let people know about your AI related services, here's a sponsorship form for you guys too as well. Again, a special shout out to our silver sponsors, Polymorphic and Police Reports, and to the bronze sponsor, Clerk Minutes as well. So thank you, and thank them for helping put this webinar together and this meeting together. So a couple things here as we wrap up. Here's the upcoming schedule for the AI and Local Government Network. Again, the first Monday or first working Monday of each month. You'll notice that July 8th, and that's because the first working Monday falls around that July 4th holiday. And so some of us might not be able to, might not be at work at all. So we'll move that to the July 8th, but all times are Phoenix local time. So a couple of things here, and this is kind of ties back to the teaser I put at the end about ways we can support each other. So I have the opportunity to do a couple webinars here in the next couple of weeks here. One with on February 7th with SGR, AI and HR. Actually, John Weidl and myself will be joining the ICMA Northern Illinois University student chapter to talk about AI, friend or foe. But what I want to do too is if you are speaking at an event relating to AI, like a webinar or something, let me know. I want to put that on the civicinnovation.ai community calendar under the AI and Local Government Network page, which is a community forum free to join. And that way we can support each other and attend these meetings, learn from each other as well too. So if you have a event that's coming up you want to let people know about, please email it to me. We'll put it on the community calendar and we'll support each other in that way. Again, ways to stay connected. Love connecting with you all, hearing your success stories, hearing what you're doing with AI. So would love to connect with you all if we're not already connected on LinkedIn or on YouTube or anything like that. So please reach out. Love to have conversations and pick your brain and learn from you all as well. So again, thank you all for attending. Thank you for taking an hour out of your day and doing this. Special thanks again to Polymorphic, Police Reports AI, and to Clerk Minutes for helping make this possible. And until then, have a great rest of your month. Keep exploring AI in safe, responsible manners. And we'll see you next month on Monday.